So, we are going to continue from where we left off yesterday. And I must say, I really love this book, and especially love this chapter. It's really so effective for the mind. Okay, so we're going to start with verse 52. You have the handout. And like I said yesterday, I think my translation might be different than yours, but that's okay. So this section that we're about to start with is having fortitude with others when they treat us with contempt. Okay. Now, none of us like to be treated with contempt. We don't like people looking down on us, despising us. You know, I mean, contempt is such a, just, really nasty kind of a motivation so what do we do when people look down on us in that kind of way? So verse 52, Shantideva says, "Since my mind is not physical, in no way can anyone destroy it. But through its being greatly attached to my body, it has caused harm by physical suffering. Since disrespect, harsh speech, and unpleasant words do not cause any harm to my body, why, mind, do you become so angry?" Okay, so our mind is not physical. Yeah, the mind is formless, it's clarity and awareness. So there's no way that anybody can destroy our mind. Yeah, there's no cause or no external factor, no internal factor that can make the continuity of our mind cease. Yeah, and nothing physical can directly harm our mind because our mind is not something physical. Okay, but through our mind being very attached to our body, the mind experiences pain through physical suffering. So because we're attached with our body, so we identify very strongly with our body. This is my body. Sometimes we even say, this is me. Yeah, don't you touch me. Yeah, don't you lay a finger on me. Yeah, there's a lot of identity with our body, a lot of attachment to our body. And due to this, then when somebody harms the body, our mind gets very upset and is very, very reactive. Yeah. Now, from an ordinary viewpoint, we would say, yes, of course, there's nothing unusual about that because we're so immersed in thinking of ourselves as our body. Yeah. But, when we can stop thinking that, I am my body, yeah, and just see, okay, the mind stream has some connection with the body temporarily, for this lifetime. Yeah. But it's not the body, we're not our body. So maybe we don't need to make such a big deal over what happens to our body. Okay? Now you're going to think I'm totally crazy. Yeah? But if you think about it, we really learn in some ways to suffer due to our body because we learn to think in certain ways. If you've ever watched really little children, they're running around, they fall down, then they look to mom and dad to see if they're supposed to cry. Yeah, watch. It's so interesting. This is exactly what little kids do. Yeah. So it's not that they necessarily, I mean, sometimes if it's a big clunk, yes, they cry. But many times they just fall down. They don't particularly feel hurt. But if mom and dad look alarmed, then the child starts to cry. Oh, this must hurt if mom and dad look alarmed. And then they learn every time, to associate falling down or all these kinds of things with pain, and they just learn to cry and often make a fuss. Yeah? It's not necessarily something where they feel pain, but they learn that. Okay? So it's quite interesting when we feel pain to really watch what's happening and how much is there just the physical sensation of the pain, and how much does our mind make up a story about the pain and get worried and get afraid. Okay? So, you're sitting in cross-legged position you go to your meditation class, and then you go, oh, there's some sensation in my knee. Fine, some sensation in my knee. Then we label it pain. As soon as we label it pain, it's like, oh, my knee really hurts. And if I continue to sit in this position, I'm going to cause permanent damage to my knee. And then I won't be able to get up, and I won't be able to walk, and I won't be able to jog and do all the fun things I usually do. So I better move my leg right now, otherwise I'm going to be permanently handicapped. Okay? You ever notice that way of thinking develop when you're meditating? You're not going to become permanently handicapped. But our mind makes up a horror story that makes us frightened, and then we suffer just because there's some sensation in our knee. But it's also very interesting because if we get distracted by something else, we cease to feel the pain in our knee. That sensation doesn't become prominent to us anymore. But as soon as our mind says, oh, this is terrible, this is horrible, then we create a whole other level of suffering. Okay? And that's because we're very attached to our body. Okay? So, yeah. So then, since disrespect, harsh speech, and unpleasant words do not cause any harm to my body, why, mind, do you become so angry? So when people have contempt for us, the body isn't harmed. Yeah. And since our mind just, gets upset because of the body being harmed, the mind, there's nothing that can destroy the mind. People having contempt for us can't destroy our mind. It can't hurt our mind. And it can't hurt our body. So why are we getting so upset? It's a good question, isn't it? Why do you get so upset when people look down on you? They're looking down on me. They can't do that. I am not some lousy speck of dust. They can't treat me like this. Okay, we get upset. But if you look at it, are they having contempt for your mind? No. Are they having contempt for your body? Contempt can't hurt your body either. So exactly what are we getting so upset with? Because all there is a body and a mind. You getting what I'm saying? Yeah? It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Contempt can't hurt my mind, because my mind isn't physical. It can't hurt my body, because contempt isn't physical. So what exactly am I getting upset with? And here's when we really come to look deeply at to answer that question, we have to step back and really look inside our mind and understand how it operates. And that's when we begin to see how our mind makes up stories. Okay? There's something small that happens, and our mind makes up a huge story about it. Okay? So consider, if the situation of contempt. Maybe somebody looks at us and says, "You're just some lowly something," really full of contempt. Well, actually, their words are just sound. Aren't there words? The words are just sound. So there's these sound waves coming. They hit my ear. Go up through my nervous system. I hear sound. That's all that's happening on a sensory level, is that I'm hearing sound. Where's the meaning of that person's speech coming from? After I hear the sound, I interpret the sound. They said, "Oh, you little piece of scum," And then I took offense at that. "You can't call me a little piece of scum." All it was basically was sound waves in the air, but I'm making up this story. This person is treating me rudely. They're treating me with contempt. I am a worthwhile person, but I feel really insecure and I don't believe in myself, so I can't stand when other people put me down, because I need people to tell me I'm okay, because I don't really feel okay, and this person isn't telling me I'm okay. They're telling me I'm scum and I'm mad. And that whole story is made up by us. Okay? We might say to the other person, "You made me mad," as if anger were somehow coming with the sound waves, and the anger hit our ear and I caught a virus. I caught the virus of anger and now I'm mad. But nobody else makes us mad. It's really totally incorrect to say, "You made me mad." Somebody just did something. We make ourselves mad according to how we interpret what they did. What do you think? Okay. Let me give you an example of how our mind interprets things and makes ourselves upset. Okay, so many years ago, 1973 to be exact, I was hiking in the Himalayas with a friend of mine, and we had gone up to Namche Bazaar, and it was really high, and we had hiked in from Kathmandu all the way there, and instead of coming out, we were going to go to, there's one little airport at a little village named Lukla. The airport is great. You should see the airport. It's a runway which is made of grass. It's a little hill that kind of steeps down. This is way high in the mountains, like maybe 10,000 feet. Maybe 9,000, but high. Anyway, it's just a field of grass, and then there's a cliff at the end of the runway, and then there's a crashed plane over on this side. Okay? So this is where we went, that we were going to catch this little, propeller jet to take us back to Kathmandu. So it was getting late in the day, and some villagers came, because there wasn't going to be another flight going out. And so the villagers said to us, there's no flight going out. You can come and stay at our house, for the evening. And then tomorrow when there's another flight, you can come and catch the flight. So my friend that I was with said, wow, how kind these people are. They see that we're foreigners, we don't have a place to stay. They offer us to stay in their home and to take care of us. They're so kind. I thought, oh, they know we're foreigners. They're asking us to come home. They're going to charge us a ton of money, because they just want to bilk us out of a lot of money. And I don't really trust these people. Okay? My friend and I experienced the exact same situation. We heard the exact same words. And he thought kindness, and I thought they're trying to bilk us. Yeah? Very good example of how the mind makes up stories. So I made myself very unhappy. Yeah? And I was saying to him, I don't want to stay there. They're going to overcharge us. They just think we're a bunch of rich foreigners. I don't want to stay there. And he's going, where do you want to stay then? Yeah, there's no hotel here. Yeah, you want to sleep in the wrecked plane on the side of the runway? These people are being kind. Okay, so I think I got my point across, how we make up stories and we make ourselves suffer. We make ourselves angry, not the other person. Okay? So that's why I love when Shantideva says, why in the world are you upset? There's no reason. And he explains it so logically. Okay, now somebody, named Joe Blow, we'll call him Joe Blow. That's in English what we call somebody, just any old guy. So Joe Blow, because we just asked, why mind are you so upset and unhappy? Joe Blow says, because others will dislike me. Okay, and that's probably what we would say too. Why am I upset if somebody says something with contempt to me? Because then other people will dislike me. Okay, and Shantideva says, but since it will not devour me, either in this or in another life, why do I not want this dislike? In other words, other people disliking me doesn't harm me. Yeah? So why am I unhappy? And when you think about it, if somebody doesn't like us, why do we feel so unhappy? It's a free world. They're entitled to their opinion. Why do we take it so, personally if somebody doesn't like us? It really doesn't hurt us at all. Doesn't hurt our body, doesn't hurt our mind. Okay? When you think about it, it's true, isn't it? Somebody disliking us doesn't harm us at all. Huh? But why, again, does it harm us? Because we have a rule of the universe, okay? We have all these rules of the universe that, we expect other people to know. And one of our rules is everybody has to like me. Do you have that rule in your universe? Do you think everybody has to like you? I do. Everybody has to like me. There's no reason for anybody to dislike me. Yeah? Okay. Who made up that rule of the universe? Yeah. none of you are saying everybody in the world has to like me. And none of you would even agree with that statement. So I'm making up my own rule of the universe. And then when other people don't follow it, I get mad at them. But that's really rather stupid, isn't it? Unless I go up to everybody in the world and say, you know, there's really this rule in the universe that you have to like me. Okay? So we just smashed Joe Blow's argument there. So then Joe Blow comes back with another remark. You know, why am I so upset? Because it will hinder my worldly gain. Yeah, so if somebody treats us with contempt, then we think, oh, other people will notice it. They won't like us. And then I won't get offerings. I won't get respect. Somebody won't do business with me, you know, and my worldly gain is going to suffer because this person over here treated me with disrespect. Okay, so Shantideva says to that, even if I don't want this, okay, in other words, to lose my worldly gain, even if I don't want this, I shall have to leave my worldly gains behind, and my wrongdoing alone will remain unmoved. So if we're saying, you know, I don't want to be treated with contempt because then my worldly gain, my status, my money, people doing business with me, all that's going to be harmed, then Shantideva says, well, even if you have a lot of worldly gain, yeah, even if you're rich and you're famous and you have a few houses and everything, still, when you die, you're going to have to leave it all behind. And when you die, that stuff can't come with you, but all the karma you created through being angry and manipulating others, all of that karma is going to come with you. So what's the use of being so attached to other people liking you if being attached to their liking you is going to make you angry when they don't, and then you create negative karma in order to get something, your worldly gain, that in any case you're going to have to give up and you can't keep forever. Doesn't make much sense, does it? Okay, so Shantideva just cut down another one of our silly arguments. Then he continues, thus it is better that I die today than to live a long but wicked life. For even if people like me should live a long time, there will always be the suffering of death. Okay, when he says, you know, like, it's better that I die today rather than create negative karma in order to get worldly gain. Yeah, because he's saying if it's not worth it if I live a long life, but all I'm doing is using my long life to create negativity through acquiring gain and respect and then getting angry when I don't get it, then having a long life has no purpose because I'm just accumulating more cause of suffering through creating so much negative karma through my bad actions. Yeah. So what's the use of having a long life in that case, especially since, you know, I want to have a long life so I can hang on to my wealth, but eventually I'm going to have to leave it anyway, because there's always going to be the suffering of death. Okay? So think about it. He really has a good point there. Yeah, why do we pray for a long life if all we're going to do is use it to harm other people? You know? No purpose having a long life for that reason, because it harms others, and then we create negative karma by it. So You know, when we always say that we want a long life, and we want to dedicate for a long life. So at the same time we do that, we should always think, I want a long life so I can make my life meaningful for others, so I can contribute to the good of the world. Yeah? Then it makes sense having a long life. And then our prayers for a long life, you know, they're coming from a good motivation, so it's easier for that to actually come about. Okay. Verse 57. Suppose somebody should awaken from a dream in which they experienced 100 years of happiness, and suppose another person should awaken from a dream in which they experience just one moment of happiness. For both of these people who have awoken, that happiness will never return. Similarly, whether my life has been long or short, at the time of death, it will be finished like this. Okay? So somebody may have a long dream, 100-year dream. When they wake up, the dream's over. Or you can have a good dream for 10 minutes, and it's the same. When you wake up, your dream's over. Yeah? In other words, at the end of the day, the dream doesn't last. So in the same way, it is with our life. Yeah? If we live a long life, or if we live a short life, at the end of our life, it's still going to be over. Our life is going to be like last night's dream. So seeing that's the case, yeah, if we're praying for a long life, let's make it a long, virtuous life. Okay? Because for both of these people who have awakened, in other words, if we die after a short life or a long life, the happiness, the worldly happiness that we experienced while we were alive, whether it's long or short, it's never going to return. So creating negativity for the benefit of worldly happiness doesn't make any sense, because whether our worldly happiness is long or short, at the end of the day, it's over and it's never going to come back. Okay? Are you getting what I'm saying here? Yeah, it's really something to think about. Yeah? So craving for gain and wealth is really inappropriate. Yeah? Because either way, our life is just going to become an object of our memory. So we may have a big photo album or a small photo album, but at the end of the day, we're going to leave behind the photo album. Okay? So let's live a virtuous life and not spend our life creating negativity for the sake of gain and reputation. Okay? And so if we turn away from craving, craving worldly things, then we won't be unhappy if people speak to us with contempt or unpleasant words. We won't be unhappy if they insult us. Okay? So if we have no interest in being special in the eyes of others, then our mental happiness won't be hindered if we don't get respect. It's true, isn't it? If we aren't attached, and we have no interest in being special in the eyes of others, then we won't be elated when people like us, and we won't be down in the dumps if they don't like us. Yeah. We'll have some equanimity in our minds, which will actually be a lot more pleasant than being an emotional yo-yo. They love me not. Everybody thinks I'm wonderful, everybody hates me. I'm a wonderful person because they said I was good. I'm a horrible person because they said I was bad. It's exhausting, isn't it, up and down like that? Yeah? But why do we go up and down? Because we're very attached to being special in other people's eyes. I want to be noticed. I want to be special. But if we have no interest in being special, then other people say nice things, other people insult us. Doesn't really matter. Our mental happiness, our mental peace of mind stays equal. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah? Wouldn't it be nice? I think it would be very nice. And when you think about it, what sense is there to wanting to be special in other people's eyes? And I think about it, I want to have a good reputation. I really need a good reputation. But then you think, what in the world is a good reputation? How would you define what a good reputation is? Or if somebody said to you, show me a good reputation, what would you point to? Yeah. When I think about it, a good reputation is other people's thoughts. That's all a good reputation is. It's just other people's thoughts. Isn't it? Yeah? You say, I have a good reputation because look, I have a trophy. Yeah? You have some kind of thing. If you're sick, what good is your trophy going to do you? Yeah, nothing. So, our reputation is just other people's thoughts. But what are other people's thoughts? They're just bursts of energy that go through their mind for a short period of time. And the really shocking news is that everybody doesn't spend all day thinking about us. Yeah. A reputation is just their thoughts about us. But they don't spend very much time thinking about us, because most people are too busy thinking about themselves. Yeah? It's true, isn't it? So if we have a good reputation, a few people thinking, so-and-so's wonderful, it's just blips of energy through their mind, and it's gone. That's it. Nothing. Yeah? So why in the world are we attached to a reputation? When it's just other people's thoughts, and other people's thoughts are very unreliable. They change their mind like this. Yeah? One day they like us, the next day they can't stand us. Trying to please worldly people is a dead-end street, because they're never going to be happy with you. Yeah? You can spend your whole life trying to please your family, or your whole life trying to please your teachers, or your whole life trying to please your friends. And you know what? They're never going to be pleased. They're always going to find some fault to pick at you with. So why are we doing backflips and making ourselves so miserable trying to please people that can never be pleased? I mean, think about it. Have you ever succeeded in pleasing anybody so that they're 100% pleased with you and they never nag and pester and criticize you again? Can you think of one person where that's the case? I can't think of anybody. Can you think of anybody, any worldly person that you've succeeded in pleasing? Hopeless endeavor. Yeah? I always think it's funny, they have these polls, like in the US, I don't know if you have them here, but what people think of different politicians, the ratings of politicians. And one day, the public, 89% of the public thinks you're doing a good job. Next day, 29% of the public thinks you're doing a good job. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Yeah? And yet, people think politics is like a popularity contest. Because you have to get all these people to vote for you. But they vote for you one day, the next day, they don't. Yeah? So, okay. Although I may live happily for a long time through obtaining a great deal of material wealth, I shall go forth empty-handed and destitute, just like having been robbed by a thief. It's true. Yeah? When we die, can we take any of our wealth with us? Yeah. Can you take your property with when you die? Can you take your friends and relatives with when you die? Can you take your money? Okay, I know there's the bank of hell. Yeah. So you think, yeah, my relatives will buy, they'll invest in the bank of hell. And they'll send me the money by burning it. Can you get Bank of Hell stocks? Do they sell stocks in hell also? I mean, is there a bank? Is there an investment company? Bank of Hell Investments. Okay? We can't take anything with us. Yeah, your relatives burn a computer. Are you going to get that when you're in your next life? Yeah, when you go out and buy a computer now, is it because your previous life's relatives burned it and now you're getting it at the store? Okay, we can't take anything with us. Yeah. So actually, they say, make it easy on your relatives and don't save so much unnecessary stuff. Yeah. And if you think about it, all your relatives are going to go through all your stuff when you die. Okay? All your drawers, your whole computer, everybody's going to go nosing around in it after you die, cleaning it out. Do you really want them to find everything you have in your drawers? Yeah? Maybe it's better to clean your drawers out now. Yeah? It's like one person, one Dharma student gave us a computer. He gave us his computer. And so we're going through and, he said, I deleted everything, you have the computer. You're nodding because you... So she was, Venerable Jigme was, going through the computer to set it up so we can use it. And he had forgotten to delete all his porn movies. So, here he is thinking I'm making this beautiful offering to the monastery, and we're going, there's porn movies on here. Get them out of here. Yeah. Okay. So then Joe Blow comes and he says now, surely material wealth will enable me to live, and then I shall be able to consume transgressions and do good. So Joe Blow is saying, no, it's right for me not to want people to talk to me in contempt, because that will destroy my worldly gain. And I need my worldly gain because wealth will enable me to live. And if I live for a long time, then I'll be able to do a lot of purification, creation of merit. I'll make a lot of money and I can give it to charity and give it to the triple gem. So it's really right of me to want to, get worldly gain, even if I create a little bit of negativity, because I can do some good with it. And I'll live long and be able to purify. Wrong again. Shantideva says, but if I am angry on account of it, on account of my wealth, won't my merit be consumed and transgressions increase? So if I get angry over my wealth, it's not that I'm going to be, accumulating merit. I'm going to be accumulating more non-virtue. And I can't tell you the number of people who tell me, I really don't have so much time to practice Dharma because I'm working at my job and I want to work and make a lot of money, and then I'm going to give a very large donation to the temple. I've heard this several times. I have yet to see that large donation from those people. Somehow their money gets revamped towards other things when they have that kind of mentality and use that kind of excuse. Okay, verse 61. And what use will be the life of one who only commits wrongdoing, if for the sake of material gain one causes the merits needed for life to degenerate? So again, what use is it living long if all I'm going to do is create negative karma? Okay? And if for the sake of material gain, I create a lot of negative karma, that negative karma is actually going to make my life shorter. And if it doesn't make this life shorter, it will ripen in future lives and, make my future life shorter. Okay, verse 62, Joe Blow comes again and says, surely I should be angry with those who say unpleasant things that weaken other beings' confidence in me. That makes sense, doesn't it? Surely I should be angry with all those idiots who say mean, nasty, unpleasant things to me that make other people not trust me. Surely I should be angry with them. What they're doing isn't right. Okay? But Shantideva says, in the same way, why am I not angry with people who say unpleasant things about others? So this was what I was asking you yesterday. Remember when I said my friend Sandy here? When somebody scolds Sandy, I say, oh, this person's just venting, don't take it personally. But when they say it to me, big deal. Okay? So, anger at things that interfere with our happiness is totally inappropriate, because that anger is creating the cause for more unhappiness. Okay? So we're always having things that interfere with our happiness, aren't we? Yeah? But if we're always getting angry at them, and we scold and we say harsh words and we create disharmony, then we create so much negative karma, which is the cause of unhappiness. So what we're doing doesn't make any sense. Okay? Verse 63, if I can patiently accept this lack of confidence because it is related to someone else, in other words, if somebody loses faith in Sandy here, I can accept that very patiently. I don't get upset with that. Okay, so if that's the case, then why am I not patient with unpleasant words about myself, since they are related to the arising of disturbing conceptions? Okay? In other words, fortitude, is appropriate because others' words are related to the arising of their afflictions. Yeah. So if I'm patient with, people not having confidence in my friend, then why aren't I patient if people lack confidence in me because the person who is slandering me is speaking out of affliction? And again, the question is, if somebody doesn't have confidence in me, how is it harming me? How is it hurting me? Yeah, and this is something, I can really see when I'm trying to help people. Sometimes I try and give people advice, and they kind of look at me. They'll come to me and ask for advice, and then I'll give advice, but the advice isn't what pleases their ego. Yeah, so they look at me, and throw the advice out the window. And if I looked at this in a worldly way, I could say, oh, I feel so hurt. I gave them advice and they don't trust me and they think my advice is ridiculous. I feel so hurt. I feel so angry. But there's no sense for me to feel that way, because if I give somebody advice and they don't like it, their refusing to listen to my advice doesn't hurt me at all. Doesn't hurt me. It may hurt them because there may be something in my advice that's helpful to them. So their closed-mindedness doesn't harm me at all, but it harms them. So why should I get angry? Makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah? Why should I get angry if somebody doesn't like my advice or they don't like what I say or do? They're the one that loses out, not me. Because I give wonderful advice. Yeah. They should always listen to my advice. They should make prostrations to request it, and prostrations after they get it. Come on. Okay. So now we're going to move into another section where he's going to talk about stopping anger at misdeeds done to our friends and to our relatives, or even to the Dharma, So previously we were talking about when people are rude and discourteous towards us. Now we're going to talk about, when they're rude and discourteous to the Dharma, which we cherish, or the Buddha, who we cherish, or to our friends and relatives, who we also cherish. Because we might very easily get angry when somebody mistreats them. But Shantideva says, should others talk badly of or even destroy holy images, reliquaries, and the sacred Dharma, it is improper for me to resent it, for the Buddhas can never be injured. Okay? So somebody may come in. We may have a friend who, says, oh, why are you a Buddhist? That you just worship idols. It's a backward religion. This is what you believe is stupid. And we could get really offended and angry because they're insulting the three jewels. But again, it makes no sense to get angry at people who say foolish things like this. First of all, because they don't know what they're talking about. They're creating a ton of negative karma, and what they say can never hurt the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, so instead of being angry at people like that, we should be compassionate. Yeah, but that doesn't mean we hang around when they're sitting there deprecating the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. We don't need to stay there and listen to their kind of nonsense. Yeah, we just say, I don't agree, bye. Yeah. Okay, verse 65. I should prevent anger arising towards those who injure my spiritual masters, relatives, and friends. Instead, I should see, as in the manner shown before, that such things arise from conditions. Yeah? So this is another situation where we could easily get mad. If somebody hurts our spiritual mentors, if somebody hurts your brother or sister or your child or your parents, it could be very, very easy to get mad because we're so attached to those people. Okay? But Shantideva's saying again, anger is really inappropriate because the person who is harming them, again, isn't doing it out of their own free will. They're doing it under the influence of their afflictions. Yeah? So instead of being angry at the person, we should be angry at their afflictions and have compassion for the person. Yeah. Some years ago, I went on pilgrimage to Tibet, and one of the big monasteries, it's called Ganden Monastery. It's outside of Lhasa. It's up on a hill, and to get up there, we had to take this bus, and the bus was like, chugging along because it was really difficult to get to the top of the hill, going through all these switchbacks. We eventually got up there, and most of Ganden monastery had been destroyed during the Cultural Revolution, and even before that, and it was just in shambles. And this was this monastery was one of the very best monasteries, and a real seat of Dharma practice, Dharma learning. It was such a tragedy that this was destroyed, but when the communists took over Tibet, and it would have been really easy to get mad at the young PLA soldiers or whatever people there were in the countryside who were provoked by the soldiers to go up there and destroy the monastery. It would have been really easy because they destroyed the Buddha images, they burned the scriptures, they made the monastics disrobe. I mean, really horrible stuff. But when I thought about it, these young soldiers, communist soldiers, and the people that that they instigated to go up there and destroy, they were all under the influence of their own ignorance. The soldiers were very often from poor families. They joined the army as a way of, getting a better life for themselves and their families. They were just trying to be happy, and they listened. They had to listen to the orders from the chief of the Communist Party and the government, and they created a ton of karma. Yeah. So there was no use being angry at them. When I really thought about it, they really were very ignorant, and they're going to suffer a lot for what they did. And at the same time, I had to think, if I spent as much energy practicing the Dharma as they spent destroying the monastery, I probably would have attained realizations by now. Yeah, because they had a lot of enthusiasm for destroying the monastery, you know? And in my Dharma practice, I'm kind of lazy, you know? But I thought, wow, what enthusiasm. I should have that kind of enthusiasm for doing virtue. I might have gotten somewhere. Okay. Oh, it's late. Okay. Again, we're at a good place to pause right here. So let's pause, and if you have questions, you can ask through the traveling mic, or if you want to write questions on a piece of paper, they'll collect it and bring it up. So this is really your chance to ask questions. Anybody? Here's somebody.
Sulan.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello. Hello, Venerable. Thank you for your talk. I have like two questions. So
could you speak a little louder too?
Yeah. Then my first question is, right, just now you said that we shouldn't get very attached to reputation, like good reputation. But then good reputation is like usually associated with good thoughts. So it's like people think good things of you, so you have a good reputation. So okay, since we shouldn't be attached to reputation in a way, then should we still create like these good thoughts for, as in, should we still create people, how to say, like, should we still create thoughts that people will actually think good of us? Yeah. Like,
I don't understand the question. Should we, what? Should we try and do things so that people will have good thoughts about us?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. I think we should try to be nice people because we really genuinely care about others and we want them to be happy. But if we're just doing nice things in order to have a good reputation, then we're not really being a sincere friend to other people. We're not really being kind. We're putting on a face, but our actual motive is to get something for ourselves. Okay?
I have one more.
Yeah, and think about it. Would you want to have friends who are only nice to you because they want something out of you?
Okay, just now you also mentioned, right?
Okay.
That if like people defame the Buddha Dharma, then we should just walk away. But then let's say you have like the good intention or like you have the correct knowledge. So should you actually just let them continue defame the Buddha Dharma, or should you like advocate like what we know and try and change their point of view? Because like if you actually like try and tell them about the correct things about the Buddha Dharma, then you're actually like sort of creating conditions for these people to know the correct things. Right?
Okay, good question. So if somebody's criticizing Buddha Dharma and Sangha, shouldn't we try and correct their wrong views? It depends on the situation and on the person. If the person is open to listening and they are curious and they are interested and they're an open-minded person, you could say, you know, oh, you read something like that, but that's incorrect information. Let me explain to you what the Buddha actually said. And then the person listens, and you're really benefiting them by correcting their wrong understanding. Okay? On the other hand, if it's somebody who is just criticizing the Dharma for the sake of criticizing, or they're trying to convert you and they're not going to listen to anything you say, then there's no sense discussing with them. It's better just to say, you know, you don't have correct information. Sometime, if you would like it, please let me know. I'd be happy to tell you. Bye. Yeah, because people who are not really interested in learning, there's no use talking to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, at least that's been my experience. Okay, so here's a question. How do you draw the line between being filial and pleasing your parents? Good question. I think being filial means that you really care about your parents. Yeah, you really appreciate what they've done for you. You don't take them for granted. You want them to be happy. And you will do what you're capable of to, that is conducive for their happiness. Pleasing your parents is like, it involves attachment to reputation and attachment to approval. It's like, well, I've got to please them because if I don't, they're going to be mad at me. And when they're mad at me, I feel lousy and I feel guilty. And I don't like feeling guilty, so I better please them even though I don't want to. Are you getting what I'm saying? When you're really filial, you care about your parents and you do what you're capable of doing. When you're pleasing them, your ultimate aim is to make your own life more comfortable. And you're pleasing them just so you don't have to feel guilty and just so they don't yell and scream at you. And that's not such a good reason, That kind of reason isn't really because we care about them. Yeah. Also, it's one thing to be filial, and it's another thing to do every single thing that your parents want you to do, even if you do sincerely want them to be happy. Because you also need to have your own life, and, sometimes you can't do every single thing. Even if you want your parents to be happy, you aren't capable of doing every single thing they want. And even if you try to do it, it may not be the best thing in the long run in terms of all sentient beings. So you really have to weigh many conditions, For example, my father is 92 years old. He has some Alzheimer's right now. So some people might say, well, I should be back in the States taking care of my father who has Alzheimer's. Yeah. If I did that, then I couldn't be here teaching you the Dharma. Yeah. Now when I think, well, what is better in the long run for sentient beings? Yeah. I think it's better that I'm here and I'm able to share the Dharma with you. And my sister is back, and she lives with my dad, and her family is there. And so my dad is well taken care of. I don't have to be there. Yeah? So you kind of weigh the situation according to, what is going to be the best for the most people in the long term. Okay? But it's totally impossible to please your parents all the time. Yeah? Isn't it? Yeah? It's impossible. Oh boy, this is a long one. So somebody's asking if an oral transmission is the same as an empowerment. No. An oral transmission is somebody's reading the text and you listen. An empowerment is the teacher is guiding you through a specific way of meditating. If you are studying with a teacher and a teacher asks you to make a commitment to do a certain practice, maybe as a result of an empowerment, then you're making that commitment, and it's very important that you keep it. Again, attending retreats on specific deities or bodhisattvas or whatever, that's not the same as attaining as receiving their empowerments. So if you've made commitments to teachers to do practices, then you should do them. That's quite important. If you attended retreats and there was no commitment to do them and no empowerment, then you're okay. But it is good if you can keep up. You know, whenever you attend any kind of retreat, you're not just doing the retreat and, okay, the weekend's over, forget what I learned, go back to what I was doing before. No, because, you know, when you attend a retreat, it's encouraging your practice. You're getting in a good habit over the days that you're doing the retreat. So it's really beneficial to continue with the practice afterwards, even if there's not a specific commitment to do so. You're already in a good habit, so good to continue. Okay, while I do not retaliate when others insult me, how do I not let the insults get to me? How do I not let the negative emotions reside in me, especially when it's from loved ones, for example, my parents? So a very good question, isn't it? You know, so we may not retaliate, like our parents or loved ones may really criticize us and scold us, and we may not retaliate, we may not respond, but we leave and we feel really hurt, and we can feel discouraged, and we can feel like, oh, these people who I love and I trust, they're telling me what a lousy person I am, and it makes us doubt ourselves. Okay? So then, you know, there's two things, you know, how do we deal with doubting ourselves, and how do we not be angry at them for saying those things at us? Okay? One thing that I've learned is that it's extremely important for us to learn to evaluate our own actions, okay? And not to always rely on other people's opinions of what we did, because they don't necessarily know our motivations. So if I do something with a good motivation, but somebody criticizes me for it, I don't need to take their criticism to heart, because I know inside of me that my motivation was a good one. I did not intend any harm. I intended benefit. Maybe I wasn't so skillful in what I did, in which case I need to apologize for my lack of skill. Yeah. Or maybe the other person misunderstood what I was doing, and I need to explain it so that they understand properly and realize that their criticism, doesn't belong. But in either case, I don't need to get bummed out or discouraged because they scolded me or criticized me, because in my heart I know I did what I did with a good motivation, not with the intention to harm. On the other hand, if I did an action that looks good and a lot of people praise me for it, but in my heart I know that I wasn't sincere and that I was actually doing something that looked very nice so that people would praise me or give me things or like me, and that in fact I had a really rotten motivation towards these other people, then even if these people praise me, their praise isn't worth anything because my motivation was rotten. Okay? So I think, we need to be more in touch with what's really going on inside of ourselves and not always look outside for other people's approval. Yeah? But really learn to have confidence based on knowing ourselves. And of course, sometimes we make a mistake, and sometimes we do get angry and so on, or greedy or whatever. But when we see that we have, we own it. We don't deny it or justify it or excuse it. We imagine the Buddha and we confess it in the presence of the Buddha. And we make some determination not to do it again. And in that way we learn from our mistakes. Okay? And that way we don't need to feel guilty because we've learned and we've, confessed. You imagine the Buddha, you confess, you say, I'm not going to do it again. You generate a positive motivation, or a positive attitude towards whoever it was you harmed. Sometimes you may go to that person and apologize. Yeah. So then we don't need to carry it around with us for a long time. Okay, please elaborate more at being angry at the other person's ignorance due to their mental afflictions. Since they're only an agent, instead should we be compassionate? Isn't being angry, doesn't it generate negative karma nonetheless? It's not that, if somebody is saying mean things to us or criticizing or whatever, that then instead of getting mad at them, we get mad at their afflictions. Yeah? I don't think we're really going to get mad at their afflictions. Shantideva is saying, why don't you get mad at their afflictions? Because they're not really acting as an independent agent. And if Shantideva says to us, why don't you get mad at their afflictions? You think about it, would you get mad at somebody else's anger or somebody else's greed? We wouldn't. Okay? Yeah. So we would have compassion for the person because we would see that they're under the influence of afflictions. Yeah? And then whatever we could do to help them eliminate their afflictions, then that would be something beneficial to them. Parents often try to keep their children from misbehaving by threatening them with punishment. Is there a better approach than this? Yes. But it also depends on the child and it depends on the situation. Yeah. I think when children are old enough to understand, the more you can explain to them about this is, please do this, and this is the reason why I want you to do it, and don't do that, and this is the reason why. The more you can explain, because the child has the capacity to understand, the better off it's going to be for the child and for you. Sometimes when children are very young, they don't have the ability to understand. So you might, if you have a little toddler that's this big and they run out in the middle of the street, if you pick the little toddler up and you say, don't go out in the middle of the street, the cars may hit you and you'll get hurt. The baby doesn't understand. They don't have they aren't mature enough to understand what you're saying. So in that case, you have to speak very strongly to the child. Do not go out in the middle of the street. Okay? So, you really have to see what the situation is. And I know that very often when you're irritated as a parent, it seems much easier to threaten your child with punishment than it does to sit down and explain to them, because you just want them to be quiet and obey, okay? Don't you? Because sometimes you're tired. It's like, leave me alone, kid. Yeah. But as much as you can explain things to your kids, it really is better for you and better for them in the long run. Yeah. But you have to make sure that they're old enough to understand the reasons you give. And you have to make sure you have good reasons. Yeah. If the reason is because I said so, that's not a particularly good reason. Okay? Yeah. Sometimes you may just have to say to your kid, I don't have a real good reason, but right now we're in a hurry, and so we have to move and do this right now, and we'll settle it later. Yeah. Okay, so somebody's saying sometimes we're very affected by a situation or by conditions, and affliction arises in our mind. Maybe we get very angry, we get jealous, we get resentful, and we're really swept away emotionally by our afflictions, and we say and do many things that are really negative through our body, speech, and mind. And we're unable, to control our mind at that moment. Yeah, so what do? I think we've all had that situation, right? Yeah, you're really upset about something. You're saying or doing something. Part of your mind is saying to yourself, don't say this, don't do this. This isn't the best way to deal with the situation. But you're so upset, you just say and do it anyway. Had that experience? I have. Yep. And so what do? Well, after you calm down, yeah, you sit down, you look at the situation, you have some regret, oh, look what I said, that wasn't so good, that hurt that person's feelings. I need to go and apologize to that person. Yeah. And so you need to, just sit and reflect on your behavior. Again, confess, make a determination not to do it again, generate a positive attitude towards that person. And then also what I find very helpful is to think, if that situation happened again, or some kind of similar situation happened again, how could I think, so that I don't get swept away with my emotions? Or what would be another way to handle the situation so that I just don't do my habitual negative actions? And so I would sit and really in my mind, in my meditation, imagine looking at the situation in another way, so I would have different thoughts and emotions about it. And I would imagine myself speaking or acting in a different way in my meditation. And I find that quite helpful. Okay. One more question, then we're going to stop. Okay. So if our anger is caused by the system, by structures created by human beings, how do we deal with this anger? Again, you look at it, we human beings create structures that are totally insane sometimes. Yeah, the way we govern ourselves, the way we do things, the way our institutions operate are sometimes just nonsensical. And it's very easy, excuse me, it's very easy to get irritated and angry about this. Yeah, but again, it's time to step back and say, this is not the fault of any single person, it's like a group think happening, and again, it's everybody's afflictions coming together to create this ridiculous system or this ridiculous structure. And so no sense getting angry at it. If there's a way for me to change it, I should go about changing it. And here I really, because Nelson Mandela just died a few days ago, to really point out his example. I was quite astonished to find out that when he was younger, he actually did training as a guerrilla. And, because he thought that some kind of warfare would overturn apartheid. And after, while he was in prison, he realized that he had anger at the structure and anger at the system, but he realized that acting out that anger by being violent was not going to bring about the circumstance that he wanted. Yeah, and so when he came out of, prison, he was very active, but in a totally nonviolent way. And he was thus, after he became president, able to do all this reconciliation work in South Africa, which was truly astonishing. Because if you think about it, if he had been angry with the system and acted it out violently, there would probably have been a civil war. And so many people dying, so many people getting killed. And then even if they were victorious, even if you win a war, the losing side resents you, and it's very difficult to govern after that because a chunk of the population doesn't like you. Whereas what he did was so incredibly skillful that even when he was he was president afterwards, many of the people who, the whites could actually endorse him and his policies because he was bringing about reconciliation. Yeah. So again, instead of, kind of this rage at the system, to really see, what are the causes and conditions that make this happen, and how can I change those causes and conditions? And then you get involved in doing what you can to change things and make society better. Okay? So, we're going to dedicate now. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.